My name is James Newdigate. I'm a South African qualified lawyer, and I've recently passed the QLTS assessment on my first attempt. Academically, I commenced my legal studies at Stellenbosch University in South Africa with a BA Law, followed by an LLB. During the LLB phase, I had an exchange program where I went to Leiden University in the Netherlands. I then returned to South Africa and completed an LLM in shipping law at the University of Cape Town. After completing the LLM, I embarked on training contracts, or what we call in South Africa articles, at a Cape Town-based law firm. During this period, I had a variety of rotations in different departments, but predominantly focused on shipping law. After training contracts, I moved to Dubai. I joined a boutique law firm here specializing in shipping law, and then moved to my current firm, Ultimimi & Co., where I specialize in shipping law. During this period, I've also completed a ship finance qualification through Cambridge Academy of Transport. I think the starting point in my decision to become an English solicitor is the nature of the work that I do, which is maritime law. The body of law that constitutes international maritime law is intrinsically linked to English law. There's a historic progression of that association that extends to modern day context, where English law has become increasingly prevalent for parties engaging in cross-border transactions. Many of the standard form shipping contracts widely used in the industry today have English law as the default governing law, with arbitration perhaps through the London Maritime Arbitrations Association, whether seated in London or elsewhere. With this in mind, I engage English law on a daily basis and felt formal qualification as an English solicitor would round my education and make me a more sure-footed practitioner. Quite simply, it was on a recommendation of a friend of mine who had used QLTS School and successfully passed the QLTS assessments on her first attempt, and she had had a good experience with QLTS School. I think it's imperative to have a reliable course provider, and my experience with QLTS School was that they equipped me, provided me with the necessary resources and tools to confidently sit the QLTS assessments. The most beneficial in my experience were the mock exams that were provided for the MCTs, the multiple choice tests, which I found assisted greatly in preparation for the MCTs. Start to finish, it took me 10 months. I started studying in August. I sat the MCTs in the following year, January, with results coming out in February. I then sat the OSCEs in May of that year. And during this time, also worked full-time in private practice. In terms of the number of hours required, I think there are different demands during different phases of the preparation. But to be frank, to do it justice, you have to be aware that it is an enormous time commitment. And during these 10 months, if I wasn't working, I was studying. Occasionally there's time for some sleep. One thing you can be confident of, it will not improve your social life. How did I allocate my time? I found, the exercise of being mindful to free up time, one of the most challenging aspects of the process. For those of you watching the video, many of you will be in private practice. You'll be familiar with the demands of somebody in private practice. So during your preparation phase, client's work will still need to be done, targets will still need to be reached. And what I was mindful of is just freeing up time where possible. So I would study before work, I would study on the commute to work, I'd go over the audio recordings provided by QLTS School. If I had a gap at work, I'd go through some materials, and certainly evenings and weekends you need to maximize. My firm, Ultimimi & Co., were particularly supportive. They provided me with financial assistance. It is a costly exercise. And they also provided me with study leave when I needed it. On the point of support, I think it's imperative to have a good support base if you do wish embarking on this process. I'm fortunate enough to have a very supportive and understanding wife. And I think it's important you have a supportive home structure, as well as being in a position in your career where you have an employer and a team that appreciate the demands that will be placed on you during this process. I think when one considers the QLTS assessment, it's important to differentiate between the MCTs and the OSCEs. There are different exams. During the MCTs, you'll largely be tested on your knowledge of the substantive law. And here, QLTS School provides you with a wonderful set of materials and course exams where you can go into the MCTs with a good appreciation of the nature of the assessment. During the OSCEs, you'll be in London for several days. You'll get to know other candidates. When I was there, I was mindful of the particularly high failure rate. Statistically, every second candidate you meet will not pass the OSCEs. And it does beg the question, why is it that the failure rate is so high? Generally, I found the caliber of my fellow candidates to be particularly high. These are competent lawyers. They're from jurisdictions recognized by the SRA, where they have in fact already qualified. And what I took from it was that many of the candidates had a very good knowledge of the substantive law, but they did not necessarily have an appreciation of the skills that they would be assessed on and the format in which they would be assessed during the OSCEs. Let me give you an example. Part A of the OSCEs consists of advocacy, client interview, and presentation. So to pass any of these, the skills assessed in all cases require you to verbalize your substantive knowledge in a particular format. For instance, when arguing a summary judgment application, how do you address the court? What is the appropriate tone and tempo you should adopt? What chronology should you follow when presenting your application? With all this in mind, are you able to present your arguments in a clear and concise manner that demonstrates your substantive knowledge of the law and, importantly, the skills being assessed? In this regard, I found QLTS School helpful in teaching the skills required to successfully sit the OSCE exams. I currently work in private practice in Dubai. I work at a law firm called Ultimimi & Co. I work in their shipping team. Whilst I do some litigation, my primary area of focus is non-contentious shipping work, which predominantly involves transactional work and ship finance. Certainly completing the QLTS assessments has been a great benefit to me, particularly my knowledge of the substantive law on a day-to-day basis. Yes, in my opinion, it is critical to passing. I would not recommend going it alone. Effective preparation is key. Once you've made the decision to proceed, try to get as much of the admin out of the way as soon as possible. Sign up with your course provider, develop your study plan with milestones. I also found it particularly useful when preparing for the OSCEs to have a study buddy. Fortunately, a colleague of mine sat the OSCEs at the same time. Preparing together was helpful with regards to developing skills that would be assessed during the exams. QLTS School also provide a variety of practice materials and tutor support, which greatly aids this process. I would be hesitant to provide a blanket recommendation. I would recommend that anyone considering it carefully assess their motivations and the value they anticipate receiving from the process. It is a long road. For some, they may be motivated to qualify simply as an addition to their CVs, or perhaps it opens career opportunities. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I would hope that anyone deciding to qualify is able to identify the value that it will add to the actual work that they currently do or the work that they want to do. If they believe that it will truly be of benefit and they're willing to make the commitment, then I would recommend it. I don't profess to have insight as to all of the skills and qualities a modern lawyer should possess, but perhaps if I could just comment on one particular skill, and that is the ability to problem solve. No matter which field of law you practice in, by and large, your clients will require that you assist them with a problem that they have. That is why they're approaching you, whether they need to sue someone or draft a contract. The value that you add as a lawyer is the ability to understand your client's problem, absorb responsibility, and work towards solving it. For me, qualifying as an English solicitor simply extended the tools and resources I have at my disposal to solve those problems. I hope that's of benefit.